Hi there. This video is going to be about kings. There's been a lot of news lately about the upcoming coronation of King Charles III. So it made me think, right, I'm going to have a king-themed video. And it also forced me to explore my record collection and rediscover bands and artists I hadn't heard in a long time. So usually when I listen to vinyl, it depends on what mood I'm in, and then I'll pick my vinyl, right? My LPs to listen to. So I found that with a theme, it was much more random, and it kind of forced my hand into delving into records I hadn't heard in a long time, like I said earlier. They're in no particular order, okay? Is King Oliver's Creole Jazz Band with Louis Armstrong and Johnny Dodds. This band was at the forefront of early jazz, and it came out with a record in 1923, and it became a real big hit and success. So King Oliver, or Joe Oliver, he was the band leader. He played the cornet, and he actually invited a very young Louis Armstrong to come up to Chicago to join him to play in the band. This is where or when Louis Armstrong had his first record, and that was with the King Oliver's Creole Jazz Band. And apparently, just reading the liner notes has been really fascinating. And usually, like jazz at that time, was the tempo was much more slow. So King Oliver, he became so popular because he had increased the tempo of jazz music, and it was a lot faster and more fun and more danceable. So apparently that laid the groundwork really for Dixieland jazz. So he's been given a lot of credit for that. And also Louis Armstrong's mentor and idol was King Oliver. He was very successful, but then he died quite young, and it's kind of sad because he actually lived the rest of his life, the latter years, in poverty. So I hope someone will make a film about it, because I think it would be a wonderful tribute to King Oliver's Creole Jazz Band and to Louis Armstrong, because there have been many interviews, and even in his autobiography, he credits King Oliver really taking jazz to another level. The second LP I want to show you is Ray Charles, Modern Songs in Country and Western Music. This is really fantastic. So this came out in 1962, and this was the first country album to hit #1 and stayed #1 at the top of the charts for 17 weeks, and it's all thanks to Ray Charles. And he basically injects a lot of soul into your classic country and western songs. So the two of my favorites on here are You Don't Know Me by Eddie Arnold and Hey Good Lookin', originally sung by Hank Williams. It's really wonderful to hear Ray Charles inject some soul and take some of the songs to church, and then you've got like strings in the background, so it's a whole different sound. So this is a pretty bashed up copy. You see, it's all worn, pretty messed up, but the vinyl is fine. I don't know, I think in its current state it kind of gives this album a lot of character. And I want to say it's really wonderful to see the record label. It's his master's voice, and it's lovely, right? You got the gramophone with the dog there. I'll show you the actual LP. So it came with the original inner sleeve, and the vinyl's super heavy. But I don't know if you can see that, right? So it's really nice to see the HMV label, so to speak. The third LP I want to show you is Nat King Cole sings George Shearing Plays. What caught my attention to this album was the two of them performing together. And I really am a big fan of Nat King Cole's earlier stuff. I've got another of his LPs, the King Cole Trio. It's got a nice little crown there. And it's really fantastic. I like it. All of his earlier stuff doesn't seem so polished or overproduced. And I think it's a little bit more raw. We've got King Pleasure. I don't know if you've heard of him or not. So Here's the back of the LP. How I discovered King Pleasure was through George Benson's version of Moody's Mood. And that's one of my favorite songs. And I actually wanted to do some research on that song because the last line that he sings in that song is, "Come on, James, come on in and you can blow if you want to," okay? And I could never figure out, like, what's he talking about? Who's James? So I subsequently discovered that King Pleasure actually did a version of that song in 1952, and that version became the most popular version and was commercially successful. And he sang it, and the female part of that song was sung by Blossom Dearie. So it's really a lovely version. Basically, King Pleasure, and he was singing in vocalese, and I didn't know what that was. Like, what is vocalese? So I learned that vocalese is basically adding words or lyrics to an improvised instrumental piece. And then I subsequently learned that James Moody was a saxophonist who actually created Moody's Mood. And it's James Moody that the last sentence refers to. So that's why at the very end of the vocalese song, they say, "Come on in, James, blow if you want to." Blow meaning he can play his saxophone. I have to tell you, I was really ill last year. I was down with the flu for like 2 weeks. And King Pleasure's version of Moody's Mood with Blossom Dearie, I had an earworm, and that song stayed with me for 2 weeks while I was unwell. And it got to the point where it had to stop, and luckily it did stop. And I just thought, oh, I'm going to put this LP away, give it some space. So I hadn't heard this LP since last year. The King, B.B. King, now appearing at Ole Miss. This was a live recording when he performed at the University of Mississippi in 1979. Just show you the gatefold there. Here's the back. It's kind of nice right there. This LP has been kind of slammed apparently because there were some post-production on this live recording, and some people are really unhappy about it. So people have been quite critical about this album. Well, you know, for me, I mean, I'm not an audiophile. I just listen to it for what it is, and I found it really enjoyable. And I enjoy listening to live albums. Nothing was amiss for me, and you know, you can't go wrong with B.B. King, right? Here we have Gypsy Kings. I got into Gypsy Kings in the 1990s, and I just really, I went through a phase of really delving into world music. So I got into the Gypsy Kings at that time, and there's some wonderful tracks on here. My favorite is Moria, right? I think it's really funny that, or not funny, but it's interesting that they even give a credit to who the clappers are in the songs, because there's a lot of clapping, okay? If you're familiar with Gypsy King's music, you'll know a lot of the songs, you got a lot of clapping. And you know, that's part of it, what makes the songs special. You know, you got that flamenco kind of feel to it. I got 2 of the LPs. I quite like this one, and I love the cover art. I think it's really wonderful. And here's a nice picture of the Gypsy Kings. The classic, probably a lot of people say the ultimate classic psych rock album, King Crimson. So this copy is 1969. There you go, and you can see the back there. I mean, the artwork is fantastic. This album, you'll see it cited as whenever you have books or publication or people's lists of 10 best psych rock albums or 10 best vinyl art covers, or you know, 10 best psych rock albums you have to have. I mean, this one's always on the list, isn't it? I actually bought this blind. I saw that everyone was talking about King Crimson. I played it, and I didn't really get it at first, and then I played it again, and then I thought, right, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. And for some reason, I kept thinking about Alice in Wonderland. I really thought that this artwork really reflected the music, what they were putting out. And definitely, 21st century schizoid man. I mean, it's incredible, right? And you can see that's what it's going to be about. And then you have some slow tracks there. But I have to say, I get it now. And the more I'm listening to it, the more I'm appreciating it. Next up is Carole King Tapestry. This is the absolute classic Carole King LP, isn't it? There's not much to say. All these songs are incredible. I Feel the Earth Move, So Far Away, It's Too Late, Home Again, Beautiful. Way Over Yonder, You've Got a Friend. Will You Love Me Tomorrow, Tapestry, You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. Fantastic. So I know that I cannot get away with talking about vinyl with a King theme without mentioning Elvis Presley, right? So here you go, Elvis's Golden Records. I'm a fan of Elvis's late 60s song, so the later Elvis, but kind of pre-chubby Elvis, 70s Vegas Elvis too. So in between, when he had this comeback program, I liked him best there. He sang some amazing songs. Those really appealed to me. And I talked about this album before in an earlier video, talking about live concert albums. And this is really fantastic. I have to show you that's great, isn't it? There. Elvis back in Memphis, Elvis in person at the International Hotel from Memphis to Vegas. I can't get away with talking about a King theme without mentioning Queen. So there you go. News of the World. I just love this album. It's fantastic. And many of you probably know, the big hits on here are We Will Rock You, You Are the Champions. There's so many wonderful songs on here. Fantastic artwork. I'll just open and look at this. It's like a 1950s or 1960s sci-fi movie. I love it. So, Queen. I'm going to end it there. So I hope you enjoyed my video about Kings as far as records are concerned. Let me know what you think, if you've got any albums with a King theme or a monarchy theme. It was really fun to do this because I was able to re-explore and then re-appreciate a lot of the albums I had in my collection. So thanks for joining me.